Well, hello YouTube, and welcome to another edition of the Breakfast Club with Got That Funk. Thank you for joining me. I'd like to respond to my friend Kizzume yesterday, who did a pretty long rant, really, which touched on a lot of subjects, and I can't really get into all of them. I actually want to make this a deliberately short video. But there's a few points of Kizzume's yesterday that I did want to address. I'll link the video in the description box below, just in case you haven't seen it. But basically, Kizzume's talking about, white supremacy and his frustration with certain social justice advocates who want people to apparently feel guilty for being white. And, he also mentioned, about, you can't be blamed for things your ancestors may or may not have done, and so on. So I'm just going to dig into that part first. It's my opinion it's kind of obvious that you can't really be culpable for what happened before you were born. Having said that, am I sorry about the things that have happened throughout history, not just to blacks who were slaves in America, but for that matter, for all of the things that my country's done, even during my lifetime? Yeah, I'm sorry about it. I'm sorry about the stuff it's done before my lifetime as well. I don't feel personally culpable for it. But yeah, fuck yeah, I'm sorry about it. I wish it didn't happen. I wish, I wish I could rewrite that stuff. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could. Can't. Just have to live with that. That's my viewpoint on that kind of thing. As regards the overall point that I think some people may be trying to get, that perhaps is maybe I'm misinformed or misunderstand. I'm not privy to the same kinds of conversations that Kizzume is talking about necessarily. We inhabit different spheres pretty much except for YouTube on the internet. So that being the case, I can't really speak to some of the kind of conversations that he seems to be witness, but I can say Kizzume seemed to object to this idea that you're supposed to feel bad for being white, and then went on to sort of describe that as, white people shouldn't feel comfortable. Okay, well, if you mean the first part, the former, that white people should feel bad for being white, I really have a hard time believing that's what people actually mean, because nobody can help their ethnicity. Nobody can, and that is kind of the point, isn't it? We are all the same, and we're all different at the same time. To me, it's I really have a really hard time with these types of arguments, because just to me, we got way more important things to think about than the amount of melanin in someone's skin or the history of their heritage. What really matters is what we're here doing now and all that kind of thing. That's where I'm at. So these things kind of go past me in one sense, but I don't feel bad for being white, but I feel bad for racism. And from my point of view, at the very least, as a responsible citizen, assuming that you're not a racist, you have to make a point of demonstrating that lack of racism, okay? In the way that you live, in the things that you say, and in the things that you will say if you see someone, being racist at someone else, whichever direction the racism is flying, I personally just won't stand there and say nothing. I will fucking pipe in. I've done it before, to the astonishment of everybody in the room, a number of times. But there's certain subjects that I think morality calls you to speak, and if you don't speak, then yeah, maybe you might want to consider that you are part of the problem. Because here's the thing, Kizzume, you object to the term, white people should feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with racial discrimination is, I think, the implication there. And put it this way, if you are comfortable with the status quo, if you think that the racial discrimination is a problem and you are comfortable, well then, isn't comfort with race isn't comfortable, if being comfortable with racism is racism, isn't it? It might not be proactive racism. It's passive, I guess, if you want to be generous about it, but it's still a form of racism, isn't it? I know years ago, my friend Robert Wallace, who's sometimes guest host here in the Breakfast Club, he made a video where he said that, you know, everybody is a little bit racist, and I quite objected at the time. Because I've, you know, deliberately lived my life not to be racist, you know, as far as I am aware and as far as what's in my power, and what's within my power is a hell of a lot as far as I'm concerned, you know, in terms of the way I treat people, the way I regard people. Part of not being a racist to me includes things like, you know, just automatically rejecting the stereotypes that I'm fed, and just, you know, believing the observations I make with my own eyes. And it's just been my experience that when you, you know, encounter people from different cultures or different ethnicities or whatever, and you just, you know, experience, you know, being a human being with them, it tends to get rid of an awful lot of these prejudices all by itself. So, you know, the best way, I think, is not let those prejudices build up in the first place. I'm digressing. Whatever. Look at 6 minutes already, damn it. Anyway, so yeah, I think it is a problem. If you want to feel comfortable with, and you acknowledge that racism or racial discrimination is a problem, why would you want to be comfortable with that? I mean, I suppose, you know, to be fair, all human beings want to be comfortable. You know, we want our life to be as comfortable and convenient and, you know, stress-free as possible. So maybe that question answers itself right there. But there are some things that you really ought not be comfortable with. Child pornography, racism, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? There's so many things that, you know, you can't speak out about every single problem in the world. You can do your best. And no matter how good your intentions are, you could always have done more, you know? That's how I sort of feel. You know, I march, I vote, you know, I speak out when I can. You know, is that enough? It's better than nothing. But I'm not in a position to say if it's enough, because I don't know if it makes any difference. I feel better about myself because of it. And nobody gives me any shit about, you know, not stepping up to the plate. In fact, the opposite's been true. I mean, one time when I was at work, summer before last, I was on a building site in East London. And there was a few people having a conversation, and it was around about the time that Philandro Castile was shot by the policeman, and he was obeying the cops' commands and still got shot. And we were talking about that in the canteen, and one of the fellows in there, Desmond, he's from Nigeria, and he was silently listening to this conversation that I was having with this other guy called Joe. And Joe was like, you know, he must have done something. He obviously deserved it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, you know, what the fuck? He said, well, the cops don't shoot people unless they deserve it. I'm like, that's the entire point here, Joe. You know, and then he went on to say that, you know, he was probably a criminal anyway. And I'm like, whoa, where are you going with that? Desmond was sat right there the whole time, silent, because it's been his experience that it's just best to fucking stay out of it, you know. But after the conversation was over, he came up and shook my hand and said he's never seen anybody stand up like that. He said normally people just shut up when they hear someone going off with their racist bullshit, but, you know, he's never seen anybody stand up for it, and he really, really, really appreciated it. So that kind of thing made me feel really good, and that's the kind of thing I think everybody should do. You shouldn't stand by silently. But the rest of your life, just, you know, just treat people the way you want to be treated. You know, that's easy, right? And, you know, kindness knows no shame, to quote Stevie Wonder. Anyway, fucking 9 minutes. I'm going to end the video. Don't be comfortable with racism. That's my overall message. I want to hear your comments in the comment section down below. Kizzume, thank you for your inspiring video yesterday. And I look forward to seeing you again next week on The Breakfast Club. Peace.